This thrilling story begins by showing a man named Simon, who was talking about many angels belonging to heaven. Simon even explained how all the angels were attacked and how several dark forces began to overpower them. He even mentioned Lucifer, saying that he caused the most destruction. Because of this, the gods used their power to send Lucifer to hell. This was because Lucifer and some other dark forces had caused a massive war in heaven, during which many angels lost their lives. However, the gods believed that Lucifer would not remain quiet. He would definitely escape from hell, come to earth, and attempt to wipe out the human race. For these reasons, the angels in heaven had to descend to earth. They wanted to protect humans, so all the good angels took human form and started living among them. Simon then reveals, "I am also an angel." When Simon is shown, his entire eye transforms into a human eye, indicating that he and his fellow angels have arrived on earth. They have hidden among ordinary humans to protect them. But now, Simon was beginning to realize that another great war might be approaching. Next, we are shown a massive church where a priest named Thomas was present. The priests there were performing a ritual together when Thomas was suddenly called by his senior priest. Thomas, showing his respect, knelt before him. But suddenly, Thomas started having visions. In these visions, he saw many angels being slaughtered and a terrifying war taking place between the angels and dark forces. He could not understand why these visions were appearing in his mind. However, from his expressions, it seemed that he was a part of that war, as if he was physically witnessing everything happening. Later, Thomas, after completing his work, stood atop a tall building. His mind kept racing with thoughts about the visions he had seen in the church. He didn't recognize anyone from those visions. A while later, a man approached him, telling him that smoking was not allowed there and that normal people were not permitted to enter. However, Thomas took out a card, his ID card. That's when we learned that Thomas was actually a highly skilled police officer. As soon as the man saw the card, he left. But Thomas was determined to uncover the truth behind his visions. He went straight home, only to find Simon already sitting inside his house, acting in a very strange manner. Seeing an unknown man in his home, Thomas was startled and immediately pointed his gun at him. He demanded to know who Simon was and how he had entered. The house was completely locked, and Thomas had the only key. At this point, Simon revealed, "I saw the same visions you had in the church. But trust me, you don't want to know the real secret behind why you're seeing them." Thomas was desperate for answers, so he didn't shoot Simon. Instead, they began talking, trying to make sense of this mysterious problem. However, Simon did not reveal everything and eventually left. Meanwhile, in the city, an unknown man was searching for Simon. His only goal was to kill him. He had already tracked Simon's address and was now on his way to eliminate him. At that moment, Simon was in his room, placing a small box and a map on the table. Just as he picked up a newspaper to read, the unknown man attacked him, brutally injuring him in an attempt to kill him. But Simon wasn't weak, he fought back, trying to figure out who this attacker was. When the unknown man's face was finally revealed, Simon saw that both of his eyes were missing, his eye sockets were completely empty. That's when Simon realized that this was another angel, but one who had been corrupted and was now working for dark forces. If Simon wanted to survive, he had no choice but to kill him. It was clear that this fallen angel was under someone else's control. Summoning all his strength, Simon fought back and threw the dark angel out of the window. As the corrupted angel tried to stand up, a speeding car suddenly ran over him, crushing him to death. Simon then disappeared into the distance, vanishing without a trace. A short time later, when the police officers learned about the incident, a team arrived at the scene to investigate. Thomas was also part of this team and began searching the house for clues. However, despite thorough investigation, Thomas and his team found nothing. There was no evidence left behind. Simon had erased all his fingerprints, leaving the officers empty-handed. Frustrated, Thomas instructed his team to send the dead body for a post-mortem. He hoped they might find something inside the body that could provide a clue. But Thomas was still disturbed by the visions he had seen in the church. He desperately wanted to uncover the truth behind them. Meanwhile, in another part of the city, a large school was shown. This school was filled with children, and a woman named Catherine was teaching them how to sing. This school belonged to Catherine, and she had dedicated it to educating orphans for free. She taught them various techniques and skills, believing that children with no one in this world needed guidance and support. Catherine firmly believed that it was necessary to help those who had no family to care for them or guide them. She spent most of her time teaching and nurturing these children. On the other side, Simon was seen standing near the dead body of an unknown man. In a strange and eerie scene, he began absorbing the man's soul into his own body. It was a bizarre and unsettling sight. Simon was literally drawing the man's soul into himself. The reason behind this strange act was still unknown, but it would soon become clear. After finishing this mysterious process, Simon left and went straight to the same school. Feeling extremely weak, he entered an empty room and lay down, trying to regain his strength. He didn't want anyone to notice his condition, so he quietly hid in a corner and fell asleep. Back in the school, Catherine was shown again, happily engaging with the children, ensuring they were cheerful and well cared for. At that moment, she noticed a girl named Mary sitting alone, looking extremely sad. Catherine approached her, concerned about what was troubling her. Catherine kept asking Mary repeatedly what was wrong, but Mary had seen something so terrifying that she couldn't even explain it properly. No matter how many times Catherine asked, Mary didn't have the courage to tell her. Meanwhile, Thomas was shown arriving at the laboratory where the dead body had been sent for a postmortem. The doctors were now sharing their findings with him. In a shocking revelation, they told Thomas that the man's eye sockets were completely empty, there were no eyes at all. Even more disturbingly, the body contained both male and female reproductive organs, meaning this person didn't need another to reproduce, they could generate offspring on their own. Thomas and the doctors were completely stunned. They had never encountered such a condition before. No matter what, Thomas was now determined to solve this case and uncover the truth. At the same time, another angel named Gabriel was introduced. He had arrived at Simon's home, searching for him. But Simon was nowhere to be found. As soon as Gabriel entered the place, he noticed blood. It belonged to the same dead angel whose body Thomas and his team were investigating. Realizing the danger, Gabriel immediately rushed to the postmortem area. There, he dropped something onto the alien-like corpse, setting it ablaze. Gabriel did not want anyone to learn about him or his community. He was determined to erase all evidence. The next day, Mary was shown at school, playing with her friends. While running around, she entered the same room where Simon was hiding. The other kids ran away as soon as they saw him, but Mary stood still, not afraid. She asked Simon, "Did Catherine give you permission to stay here?" Simon denied it, but he slowly began manipulating Mary with his words. Somewhere deep down, Mary felt that Simon was a good man. A little while later, Catherine arrived, searching for Mary. When she saw Simon, she noticed how incredibly handsome he was. The two of them started talking, but after some time, Catherine told Mary to leave. Then, she turned to Simon and said, "Even if you are staying here, it's illegal. That means I will have to call the police." But then, Simon gave Catherine a strange look and started controlling her with his eyes. He commanded her to forget everything and focus on her work. Under his influence, Catherine obeyed and immediately left. A little while later, Mary entered the room again. She said, "I never left this room. I know everything about you now. You can control people however you want." Simon couldn't afford to take any risks. So, he told Mary, "I will give you something important. You must keep it safe and never tell anyone." Then, Simon transferred something into Mary's body. It was nothing but the soul of the dead man he had absorbed earlier. Now, he had placed that same soul inside Mary. As soon as Mary left the room, she started feeling unwell. Seeing her condition, Catherine took her to the hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, Gabriel was shown controlling a man named Jerry. Gabriel possessed certain supernatural abilities that allowed him to enslave others and make them do his bidding. Jerry was a man suffering from cancer, with only a short time left to live. However, Gabriel kept him alive to use him for his own benefit. Jerry constantly pleaded with Gabriel to set him free and let him die in peace, as he didn't want to live like this. But Gabriel, a dangerous angel, had no intention of listening. Now, Gabriel took Jerry to a graveyard and began digging up a grave. When he opened it, he found the dead body of the same soldier from whom Simon had recently absorbed a soul. As Gabriel tried to absorb the soldier's soul, he realized that it was already gone. Someone had taken it before him. It didn't take long for him to figure out that Simon must have been the one who did this. Using his abilities, Gabriel immediately teleported to the school chamber where Simon had been hiding for days. Here, it was revealed that Gabriel was far more powerful than Simon and was completely on the side of evil. Now, in a fit of rage, Gabriel demanded, "Where is the soldier's soul?" But Simon doesn't reveal anything to Gabriel. This enrages Gabriel, and he starts attacking Simon multiple times, but Simon still doesn't open his mouth. Gabriel then uses his abilities to set Simon's entire body on fire, burning his skin completely. However, just before Simon is about to die, Gabriel pulls him out of the flames and asks him one last time, "I know you absorbed that man's soul. Just tell me where it is." Gabriel was aware of a prophecy that stated, if any dark angel absorbed the soul of the most evil person on earth, their powers would increase tenfold, making them immortal, completely unstoppable. Gabriel was determined to absorb the soul of the world's most corrupt politician and become invincible. However, Simon had already transferred that man's soul into Mary's body, and he refused to say anything about it. Enraged, Gabriel ultimately killed Simon. But his mission was still incomplete. He needed to find that soul at any cost to become more powerful than ever. Now, we see that Mary's health is deteriorating. She stops attending school, and her grandmother takes care of her all the time. When Catherine visits Mary's house, she realizes that Mary's condition has not improved at all. Mary's grandmother says, "I've consulted all the doctors, but they haven't found a solution. That's why I will take Mary to some spiritual healers. Maybe they can help her recover." Meanwhile, Thomas is inside a church when Gabriel arrives there. Gabriel calls out Thomas's name, shocking him. How did this stranger know his name? But Gabriel doesn't answer and simply walks away. The next day, we see Gabriel interacting with children at the school. He casually asks one of them some questions, and through this, he learns that a girl named Mary was seen with Simon inside a chamber, talking to him. This makes Gabriel suspicious. He now has a strong hunch that Mary is somehow connected to all of this. Within a short time, Catherine arrived. Seeing the unfamiliar man with the children, she immediately questioned him, "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" After the children left, Gabriel replied, "I was just talking to them. If we don't talk to children, then who else would we talk to?" Gabriel then started asking Catherine about Mary, where she was and how she was doing. But Catherine wasn't about to share anything about her children with a complete stranger, so she refused to say anything. Gabriel, realizing he wouldn't get any information from her, left. Catherine, however, felt deeply worried about Mary. She immediately traveled to Mary's other home, but upon arriving, she found that Thomas was already there. Thomas had also come to ask Mary some questions, specifically about her interaction with Simon. He wanted to know what their conversation had been about. Both Thomas and Catherine sat with Mary, trying to comfort her before gently asking their questions. However, Mary simply said, "Simon gave me something important, something I must keep hidden. I can't tell anyone about it." She also confessed that whatever Simon had given her was making her feel sick. "I don't know what to do," she admitted. The most shocking part was that Mary, a little girl, was now having visions of a terrifying war between heaven and dark forces. A war that had ended many years ago was now about to start again. Catherine and Thomas were extremely worried about Mary. Hoping to find answers, Catherine took Thomas to another location, an underground cave where she had previously seen Gabriel and Jerry entering. Moving cautiously, they stepped inside the cave to investigate. The walls were covered in strange writings, written in a language similar to the one Thomas had discovered in a mysterious book during his investigation. As they ventured deeper, they suddenly came across a portal. The moment they stepped through it, they were met with a horrifying sight, countless dead bodies lying before them, and the entire environment had changed drastically. It felt as if they had entered an entirely different world. In reality, this was the battlefield where the upcoming war between heaven and dark forces was destined to take place. And when it began, everyone present in this place would be annihilated. Thomas was terrified by this and quickly rushed out of the cave, heading toward Mary. However, Gabriel and Jerry had already arrived at the vanity van where Mary was. Thomas immediately drew his gun and aimed to fire, but Jerry lunged at Thomas and started attacking him. Thomas, determined not to let anyone harm Mary, used the gun to kill Jerry first. Then, he shot Gabriel, but Gabriel was unaffected as he was an angel and had numerous abilities. Gabriel retaliated and beat Thomas, knocking him to the ground. But Catherine quickly picked up the gun and fired multiple times at Gabriel, distracting him. Gabriel then turned his attention to Mary and began fleeing with her. Thomas managed to get up and, despite his injuries, rushed after them. However, Gabriel seemed unharmed and was slowly advancing toward them to kill them and take Mary away. At this point, Catherine used her wit and aimed the gun at a gas cylinder instead of Gabriel. She shot the cylinder, causing a massive explosion that destroyed the entire vanity van. Gabriel was severely injured in the blast and fell unconscious. Thomas and Catherine quickly placed Mary into the car and prepared to leave. Within moments, police officers arrived and assumed Gabriel was dead. They took him with them, but as soon as they placed him in the car, Gabriel opened his eyes, indicating that he was still alive. As Thomas and Catherine drove with Mary, they encountered the dead bodies of the two police officers on the road, obviously killed by Gabriel. He had escaped their grasp, meaning Mary's life was still in danger. For the time being, Thomas and Catherine took Mary to her grandmother's house. Mary's grandmother had taken her to a mystic for treatment, as the doctors had given up on her and her condition was not improving. The mystic was performing a strange ritual to help Mary. Meanwhile, Gabriel had made his way to a hospital. He was searching for someone who was about to die. After some time, he found a woman who had cancer. The next day, the woman was about to die, which is why Gabriel took control of her and extended her lifespan, allowing her to live for many more years. However, during this time, she had to stay by Gabriel's side. Gabriel, now in control of the woman, set off to capture Mary. Meanwhile, Catherine, standing in an unknown place, was thinking about how to protect Mary. Suddenly, Lucifer appeared before her. Lucifer, who had been hiding among humans, told Catherine that she had to stop Gabriel at all costs. If Gabriel succeeded in his plan, he would create another hell on earth, where no human would survive. Catherine had to stop Gabriel so he wouldn't absorb the dangerous soul from Mary's body into his own. The next day, while Thomas was working, Lucifer also approached him. Lucifer told Thomas that his heart was pure and that he was the kind of warrior who could defeat evil. Lucifer guided Thomas on how to stop Gabriel. He transferred a small part of his own power into Thomas's body, giving him a clear understanding of what he needed to do. With this new strength, Thomas began carrying out his plan. Thomas set up a large, sharp chain along the path, hoping it would stop Gabriel. He knew Gabriel would sense it and eventually come to him. It was nighttime now, and many rituals were being performed on Mary because her recovery was crucial. On the other hand, Gabriel was driving his car towards the location, but he got stuck in the trap set by Thomas. His car slid down into a bad condition. Despite Thomas trying to stop him, Gabriel pushed forward, beating him severely. Gabriel eventually reached the chamber where rituals were being performed on Mary. Just then, Catherine took out a gun and began firing multiple shots at Gabriel. However, the shots had no effect on him, and he continued moving towards Mary without fear. Suddenly, a car broke through the wall, driven by Thomas, and ran over Gabriel. Gabriel was so badly injured that he could barely stand. Taking advantage of this opportunity, Lucifer appeared and pulled Gabriel's heart out, killing him. Thomas now realized that Lucifer, whom people had always referred to as evil in stories, actually stood for the truth. After Gabriel's death, Mary's soul, which had been trapped inside her due to the rituals, finally left her body and ascended to heaven. Mary was now completely normal, and Gabriel's plan failed miserably. Thomas and Catherine were overjoyed that they not only saved Mary but also prevented the destruction of humanity. Had Gabriel succeeded, the war between heaven and evil forces would have taken place on Earth, resulting in mass human casualties. But with Gabriel's death, that war would not happen. Lucifer also left to live among humans, promising to help whenever humanity needed assistance. And thus, our thrilling story comes to an end.